afternoon, everyone. Welcome to iTOO TV. My name is Tove Sitole, your host, and we are coming to you live from Drone Con in Emperor's Palace. And I'm joined by the esteemed Amit Ramdath, who is the founder and owner of AUTONOSKY Aviation. Welcome, Amit.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I understand what we're about to delve into is very, very complex. But before we get into the complex stuff, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm from Cape Town, very much a tech entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for about 21 years now. I've started various ventures in the tech space. The most recently, and I have to admit it's my baby, is AUTONOSKY. And it's I love robotics, I love engineering, I love software. It brings it all together.
Okay, cool. And what brings you to the drone conference?
I was invited as a speaker, but this happens to be one of those conferences where you get to meet most of the people in the industry.
Yes.
And the drone industry in South Africa is a bit small, and this is the one conference where you see everybody that you've been chatting to on email and telephone calls and WhatsApps, and you get to see each other in person. So
that's great, and I'm sure that's great for relationship building as well.
100%, yes.
Okay. Amit, I believe you are passionate about building drones. So we've spoken to quite a few people around who actually sell drones or who use drones in the environment, but you actually have built a drone or two?
Yes, 100%, yeah. So, one of the things that we wanted to do with drones is push the envelope and find applications where it can positively impact humanity. And the challenge was lots of the drones out there have very little payload capacity, or the flight time is very limited.
Yeah.
So our mission was to build things that could carry more substantial payloads and fly longer. And by doing this, we get the opportunity to unlock applications of UAVs that are not typical, but will be in the future. Okay.
And have you successfully managed to carry more and fly longer?
100%. Yes, our first drone is called Autono 1.
Okay.
It lifts 30 kgs of payload. It flies for about an hour, and it is a flying platform where it can support a variety of payloads.
Okay. And typically, what would you be transporting with such a drone?
Well, it can really vary from industry to industry. So most recently, we've developed a winch system that can hoist up 15 kgs while it's in a hover.
Yeah.
And this is being used in a research environment where sensors need to be submerged underwater and then retrieved again. We've also got a delivery payload for that Amazon type of delivery.
Yes.
We've got a fire retardant ball dropper to drop fire retardant on fires starting in hard to reach places.
Okay.
And there's more, but we are always increasing. We've got some camera payloads. We're working with the CSIR on a payload to pick up vegetation fires, for example. That's also working on a custom payload that we've created. It's a gimbal system to house that sensor and do fire spotting.
That sounds very impressive. Well done.
Thank you.
And maybe just take us through the mechanics of building a drone and building those various drones. What are some of the challenges that you come across?
So, look, the main challenge for us is access to components that we require, or to partners that can develop components that we require.
Yeah.
We often need to look abroad, but the process from our side really starts as a CAD drawing. We draw up the drone, we run simulations for stress testing, some of the aerodynamic simulations as well. And once we are happy, we start fabricating the components we need. Things that we can't do in-house, we'll fabricate from companies that we trust and bring them in and put it together and test it, approve it, and use it.
Oh, very fascinating. You've just spoken about testing. How do you test these things? Because I'm assuming some of the environments you can't really do live testing, like with the fire and stuff.
So we've got a test field in a very sparsely populated area in Cape Town. It's a massive field. It's made for model aircraft. It's a private field, so we get access to it. And testing a new aircraft is can be very intimidating. Autono 1 is about 2 meters from tip to tip.
Okay.
So it's a very large aircraft.
Yeah.
And if something goes wrong, it can, if it hits you, it will kill you. So you have to do so many checks, take so many precautions.
Yes.
But it's just the adrenaline, and when you have a successful flight, is unmatchable.
And have you had any accidents? Have you seen anything
Yes,
go wrong?
Yes, we've had a couple of crashes. I always say we need to have them, or otherwise our customers will have them.
Yes.
And it's a way we learn. Unfortunately, in every form of anything that flies, and if you're going to be pioneering that aircraft, you have to be prepared to crash.
Absolutely.
And it's the first one was the hardest. Some of the team were crying, and touch wood, no injuries, no injuries to property, people, or anything.
Yeah. Okay, we wish you many safe journeys, and we hope nothing like that ever happens with you. Amit, I believe you're also into research, and obviously, naturally, when you're building aircrafts like that, you would do a little bit of research. But I understand you do extensive research in drones and drone technology. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we are always researching ways to find efficiencies in the drone builds. With those efficiencies, we want to translate heavier lifting capabilities and also longer endurance. So we look at battery technology, propulsion systems, and it gets very in-depth, but there's a lot happening around the world, and we have to keep an eye on what's happening where, how close to commercialization is it, where can we work with certain startups or become a beta tester of some of the new technology as well. So it's always interesting that way. I guess the research also keeps us interested in what we're doing.
Yes. And then in terms of the scope in South Africa and Africa at large, how does it compare to the rest of the world in terms of drone technology?
Our team back at the lab are youngsters who all come from our own academic institutions, and they are world class. The stuff that we are doing, Autono 1 is on a global scale a leader. It's our drone, and it's built by guys who have studied out of our institutions locally.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the potential we have in this country is absolutely one of our best kept secrets in a way, and it's about unlocking it. And we can compete with anybody.
That's amazing. It's always good to hear when young people are doing things that are out of the ordinary, outside the box thinking. That's quite fascinating. And in terms of the skills that you get, so what do these young people, what skills do they possess? What type of individual do you look at when you're looking at somebody to come work in your environment?
So on the hard skills, we often look for people with mechatronics, or electronics or mechanical engineering. Also computer scientists. There's a lot of software that goes into what we do.
Yeah.
But that's not all. We often look for the soft skills. We want people who see this not as a job, but almost as something they want to do with their lives.
Absolutely.
And it also adds to the culture of the organization, because we are all on that same page. This is when we arrive at work. We know we want to be there, and we know we're with people who want to be there. I read something recently that said culture is not something you write on the wall. It's about how somebody feels on Sunday night before they come to work.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of, when we look for people, it's not only those hard skills, but the mechatronics, electronics, mechanics, but the soft skills as well.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. I'm also involved in hiring at iTOO, just as part of my portfolio in the talent management skill, and we also look for the person and the skill we can teach. So I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, for anything innovative and progressive, you need that.
Just to touch on innovation, you said that you've owned a couple of tech startups. What other startups have you owned other than in the drone environment?
Okay, so my first startup was called Byte Orbit. It's a software development company, and that's still going. That's turning 21 years old this year. Along the way, I had a few hits and a few misses. One of the hits was a a company called Frontier Lab, which we ended up merging into Byte Orbit.
Okay.
Frontier Lab was a design thinking house, so also playing in that innovation space. One of the other interesting ones, just before AUTONOSKY, I had a social dining app called Dine for Six. It was a concept where you can book a ticket for yourself and one friend. You'll arrive at a table of 6, so you're there with some strangers.
Okay.
We had a curated menu. We ran it at restaurants with a curated menu, and it was fantastic until COVID came and we had lockdown and restaurants shut down.
But that sounds like fun.
It was a lot of fun, yes.
And then maybe in closing, just in terms of the content that you delivered at this particular conference, what are some of the nuggets that you can share with some of the guys that were not able to attend?
100%. So I spoke a lot about lifting heavier, flying longer, which really speaks to propulsion and power systems in drones. And propulsion, that's not going to change very quickly. We have the lift formula, and that really governs what we do. And everything is very rotor based, actually. But with power systems, there's massive advances. So, and I guess some of for me, the highlights was lithium sulfur batteries that are coming in, which can quadruple the energy density we have with lithium ion.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. The hydrogen fuel cells, the hybrid systems that we're working with. And one of my personal favorites that I'm sure you'll see in our aircraft in the future are supercapacitors.
Okay.
So if anybody's an F1 fan, when they hit that boost button, the battery boost, it's actually a supercapacitor that's storing that energy and releasing it.
Okay.
So these things can store and release very quickly, and we can use that a lot for getting or harvesting power that's being lost on the drone, for example.
That sounds very exciting. I saw how your face lit up when you were talking about that just now. And then in building these drones and flying them, what are some of the environmental considerations that you take when you're building and flying drones?
So, look, we don't use any of the fossil fuels. We keep with electric. Wherever we operate, we make sure that we leave the place as good or better than it was. Everything that we do, we tend to take a futuristic approach to it and not just have an emission-free aircraft, but an environmentally free aircraft by embracing materials that are recyclable or biodegradable where we can. Our batteries, unfortunately, they are what they are. We need them, but we are always investing in technology or R&D where we can minimize the effects. This is where like hybrid systems come in, and you can use less batteries to achieve sometimes better results. So yeah, that's something we always have in mind.
Fantastic. And just in closing, Amit, how do you stay so innovative? How do you keep abreast of the changes and make sure that you're staying ahead of the curve?
I have a motto in life, and it is, when you look back after 12 months, you should not recognize yourself. It's a motto that I've had for many years, and I live by it. And if ever I look at myself and I'm very recognizable, and I know I'm not progressing, I think it's my biggest fear to just stagnate. I cannot. That would be the end of me.
I think I'll steal that motto. I think we all steal that motto, that if you look at yourself at the end of the year, you shouldn't recognize the person that started the year.
Yes, 100%.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Amit, for your time. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Toby.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody that has joined us and watching this episode of iTOO TV, where we were coming from you live from the Drone Con in Kempton Park. I'm signing out. Tove Sitole, Head of Brand and Talent at iTOO Special Risk, your epic partner in specialty insurance.